So what even is cybersecurity? Well, if you think it's all about hackers and hoodies typing green code in dark rooms, you're completely wrong. Hang on a second. Hacked them. But if you're already set on cybersecurity and you want to fast track yourself into this field, then go check out the link in the description below and book a call, and we'll get you right on the path. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Ryan from Elevate Cyber. I've been working in cybersecurity for over 10 years, and I've helped dozens of people break into this field. And in this video, I'm going to break down the 3 major misconceptions that are keeping people like you from considering one of the fastest growing, highest paying career fields out there. And misconception number 3 is the biggest barrier that I typically see, and it's probably the exact thing that made you click on this video. The first misconception that I want to address is the idea that cybersecurity is all about hacking. It certainly can be, and for me, it was a lot about hacking, as I was always in that kind of niche within cybersecurity. But as you'll see as we go through this video, there's a lot of stuff outside of the hacking ecosystem that you can do with cybersecurity. I often equate it to saying you want to be a doctor, right? What does that really mean? There's so many different doctors out there that specialize in different things. Cybersecurity exactly the same way, because any thing out there online or anything even electronic wise, and I mean even non-electronic stuff, to be honest, like if you look at some of the RF hacking and stuff like that, all of this stuff can potentially be hacked. So it's about, for one thing, securing that technology, whether it's through proactively trying to hack into it and find security issues, or if it's just, okay, here's the devices, here's the things that we have, what policies do we need to adopt so that we are most secure? So there's different angles to looking at this stuff. A lot of that goes beyond just the crazy hacking stuff that you see in movies and TV shows and hear about out there online. Oftentimes when you go looking for cybersecurity, training platforms online in different websites to learn this stuff, it's all centered around the hacking side. Now that is starting to change. I've noticed there's been more love for some of the defensive roles out there. But yeah, I just want to point that out, that it's a lot more than just hacking. Even I wasn't doing hacking every single day all the time, because there's a lot of other things that go into it, like writing up reports and communicating with the client and, having meetings just like any other job as well. If you're kind of intimidated or put off by the hacking part, just know that depending on what role you get into, you might not have to interface with that at all, unless you want to. And that leads me into the second common misconception, and it's that you need to be a computer genius in order to work in this field. And by the way, I will say this is a misconception even if we're talking about the technical roles, even if we're talking about something like pen testing where you're hacking the stuff. The reality is that even though you may look at the job requirements, it may seem crazy and everyone tells you it's super crazy, when you actually look at what are the requirements for the first job that you would land, whether it's on the offensive or defensive side, I'll tell you straight up, it's a lot less than you might imagine. And I've helped people get into this field that had very non-technical backgrounds, people that weren't all super technically savvy and things like that, but they had good communication skills and the good soft skills. I'll actually put a link in the cards right now to an interview that I did with one of the students that I helped get a job in a technical defensive role, and he was by no means a computer genius. So just so you can see an example of that. There are also many roles that straight up don't require any kind of computer savvy skills necessarily. Things like that are more on the communication problem solving side. You can get into something like, say, GRC, which is governance, risk, and compliance. You're looking at the risk side. It's definitely technical in the sense of you have to understand the technology and stuff like that, but you don't actually have to do the hands on the keyboard crazy sweaty hacking stuff. So there's a lot of ways that you can succeed in this field even if you're not naturally inclined to this computer genius type of stuff, and that exists both in the technical and non-technical roles as well. What matters a lot more is your passion for learning rather than your existing technical knowledge coming into this stuff as well. The third misconception is, I don't know how to code. I don't want to get into something crazy that's going to involve all of that complicated stuff. Well, the reality is that, same as what I was saying before with the technical side, coding is something that is not required in most cybersecurity roles. And the ones that it is, let's say, required in, it's not that you're going to necessarily be building a bunch of crazy stuff in code like a software developer. Rather, you're going to just be looking at code and making simple modifications to it and things like that. And also because we are living in the age of AI, if you do have to create something small, you can just leverage vibe coding and AI to do that. And one of the big things that a lot of people are put off by with cybersecurity is that intimidation factor. The idea that, oh, they're not good enough, the imposter syndrome, as we call it. And, maybe you have tried a little bit of learning cybersecurity or tried learning coding or something like that before, and you felt like an imposter. Well, let me just say that this is completely normal. And I know people with 5+ years experience in cybersecurity that feel that way. And the main reason that this comes about is not that those people are not skilled. It's actually an unreasonable expectation, because cybersecurity, like I was saying earlier, is so broad. There's an infinite number of things that you can learn. Same as if you want to become a doctor, there's an infinite number of things about medicine and health and the human body that you could possibly learn, to the point that it would not be feasible for any one doctor to know everything. Well, it's the same thing in cybersecurity. It wouldn't be feasible for any one cybersecurity professional to know everything about everything. When it comes to being a doctor, it's more accepted in that field that, hey, you will learn the general stuff and then you specialize in your focus area. And even though you might not be an expert on this other thing over here that you didn't specialize in, that's completely normal. But for some reason in cybersecurity, because it's not as siloed off, I guess, people have this unrealistic expectation that if they don't know everything about everything, then they're an imposter and they suck and they're no good and they can't provide value. So all that couldn't be further from the truth. If you really establish the right mindsets around this stuff and understand that even with minimal technical skills, without knowing how to code or anything like that, this is totally a field that you could get into. When we talk about roles like GRC and risk assessment and that stuff, that wouldn't involve any code whatsoever. But even on the technical side, my usage of code in the earlier jobs that I got in pen testing, slim to none, almost none. If anything, there were exploits, hacks that I was using that were already written by someone else in code. And maybe I had to change one variable out, and if you don't know what variable means, don't worry. Basically, it just means that, like, for example, there was one line of the code that I had to change. So instead of making the attack go to this website, I just changed it and typed in the website that I wanted it to go to, for example, just in very layman's terms. So if you do have to modify anything on the technical side, it will probably be very basic stuff. And to be honest, nowadays, you could probably use AI to help you with some of that, but be careful about using AI for internal company stuff, because you're basically, if you're putting sensitive information in there, you're giving it away to third parties, which is a whole nother can of worms for sure. So then what is cybersecurity really? Well, if I just define cybersecurity in a very simple terminology, we could say cybersecurity is the practice of protecting computer systems, networks, and data from digital attacks, damage, or unauthorized access. You'll often hear people talking about the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and that's the cornerstone of cybersecurity, is securing on all three levels there. There's so many career paths, like I was saying before. Just to kind of give you a few, I have a whole video, I'll put it in the cards now, where I go more in depth on the different cybersecurity roles, but to give you some now, we have, like, on the analyst side, the more technical side, you have offensive roles like pen testing, where they try to hire you to try to hack into the websites and the servers and things like that proactively. You have things like red teaming, where you might be actually emulating a hacking group. So for example, if you work for a bank or something, they've seen that other hacking groups have been targeting other banks, and they might pick out one of those hacking groups and say, hey, if we got targeted by this hacking group, how prepared would we be? So you actually emulate that hacking group. You use all of their tactics, techniques, and procedures. You can even call up and social engineer people in many cases, like try to call the help desk, pretend to be like an employee at the company, and you're in a dire situation, you need a password reset or something. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff basically in those. There's also, on the defensive side, an analyst side, you have something called a SOC analyst, SOC analyst. They are the first line of defense. Basically, all these alerts come in when there's a potential attack going on in the network, and they will go and what we call triage the alerts. They'll look at these alerts and see, okay, is this a legitimate issue? Which most of the time it's not, or is it a false positive, meaning something in the environment triggered it, but it's not a real issue. Maybe it's like an admin going about their day day doing something, and you would rather have the alert and it be benign than not have it and it's serious and you missed it. So that's why they get all these false positives. So they have people on the team to triage that. And if they do find, hey, this is probably an indicator of compromise, they will forward that to the next level analyst and they'll look in further. And if it's a full-on breach, then they'll call in incident response, which is another technical role on the defensive side. These are the responders that come in when an actual breach is identified, and they try to lock down the environment, make sure that the attack isn't able to spread, the threat isn't able to spread to other assets in their network, and then they try to then go and determine what actually happened and things like that. If it's a big enough company, that will go and analyze that, or maybe they'll send it to like a third party. Maybe even on the incident response side, they bring in a third party to do that whole thing as well. That's on the technical side. On the non-technical side, you have things like GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, where they're looking more at a policy standpoint and things like that, and applying frameworks. And there's so many frameworks, I won't go into all of them in a video like this, but yeah, they're more so on the policy side. And then you have people doing tabletop exercises, kind of theory crafting attacks and how they would be able to prevent it with their current setup and things like that. As you can see, it's super in-depth. There's so many different roles, and honestly, there's a lot more that I didn't even mention in this video, and even more niche areas within some of the things that I was talking about there. This is just to give you a bit of an overview of some of the different opportunities. Like I said, check out that video that I linked in the cards if you want a bigger deep dive into all of this. Any path that you go down has one thing in common, and that's a very amazing growth opportunity and job security, because if you can become skilled at this, there's not that many people that know how to do any of this stuff at a high level. And so that is what gives you more bargaining power when it comes to things like remote work and negotiating your salary and everything like that. So if you're starting to get curious about cybersecurity and you're ready to dive into more specifics on the many amazing career opportunities that are available, then click on the watch next video down in the description below, where I cover the top 5 cybersecurity careers that pay over 100K. See you in that video.